Now, let's welcome Joel Robinson, who is the founder, executive director, and head naturalist for Naturalist for You. He has guided thousands of curious individuals on professional wilderness tours since 2001. Tonight, he will tell us about the wonders of our mountain environment, and tomorrow from 9 to 12 a.m., he will show you if you will join him on a hike to the top of Mount Pinos, the Chumash center of the world.
Can everybody hear me? What? So, thank you, Joe, for the ad for the tour. I appreciate that.
My pleasure.
All right. So I hope some of you will be able to join me tomorrow from 9 to noon. We'll be meeting here at the gazebo, not the gazebo. And we'll be hiking up. It's a super easy walk and very scenic. Raise your hand if you've never been to Mount Pinos before, to the top. All right. Wow, most of you have. Awesome. All right. Well, this is my other question then. Raise your hand if you live in Pine Mountain Club. Wow. All right. Raise your hand if you don't live in Pine Mountain Club. All right. Hey, yay. Welcome. Welcome to Pine Mountain Club. For those who don't live in Pine Mountain Club, can you shout out where you came from? Hot Springs, Arkansas. Where else? What? Placentia. All right. OC. That's where I came from, Orange County. Anybody else? Van Nuys. All right. Beautiful Van Nuys. Oh, where else? Where's Mira Mesa? San Diego. All right. Cool. Where else? Santa Barbara. All right. Cool. Cool. Anybody from anywhere else? What? New York. All right. Southern Oregon. Wow. Idaho too? All right. Cool. Palm Springs. All right. Any other faraway places? India. Really? Seriously? India to here? All right. Well, I'm impressed. All those who came from out of county or out of state, welcome, welcome. This is one of my homes away from home, and it's a pleasure to be here. I live in Silverado Canyon in the Santa Ana Mountains, which is in Orange County. Raise your hand if you've ever been to Orange County. All right. You had to suffer on the freeway to get there, and it was horrendous. Well, there's this mountain range that divides Orange County from Riverside County that you can see from all the major freeways, but most people don't explore it, and that's Silverado Canyon is tucked away in that mountain range, the Santa Ana Mountains. And I like to share hidden places with folks, and even if they've been there before, as a naturalist, I try to sort of enhance the journey for folks. Even if you've been jogging the same trail all your life and walking your dog there and everything, when you go out on one of our tours, our nature tours that we lead all year round, it's more than just getting from one place to another. It's about observation. And for example, we did a walk today that I thought was very successful because our little handful of participants did a very good job of observing their surroundings. And I don't know if anybody saw the schedule of hikes this weekend. Does anybody know where we went today? San Emigdio. Very good. So for those of you who may not know, San Emigdio Canyon is sort of in that direction, and it leads all the way down into the San Joaquin Valley. And a good chunk of the canyon is on what is called the Wind Wolves Preserve, a place where I used to work as a ranger. And beautiful canyon, very diverse. And it starts way up here in Pine Mountain Club and goes all the way down to the valley. So there's a lot of changes in vegetation as you go along. We did a nice, easy walk today. We met at the gazebo a little bit earlier. And our one participant today, she was very excited. Her name is Diane. And it was really neat to find out when she RSVP'd for this tour a few weeks ago. She mentioned to me, she goes, "Hey, remember me? It's Diane." And I see thousands of people a year. Names sort of are a big blur in my head, blended together. So, but she goes, "Oh, 2 years ago, I went to the Center of the World Festival, and I went on the Woodland Waterfall hike. And from that point on, I hiked like almost every weekend. And she became addicted to hiking after the hike that we offered 2 years ago." Which is really cool. So another success story like Joe's. Yeah. And she had never hiked before, apparently. I don't know if I realized this at the time, but we had such a fantastic time on the trail. Saw all sorts of cool wildflowers, interesting bugs, maybe some wildlife, other wildlife like birds and things, and got to this beautiful waterfall where some of us were brave enough to drink out of it. And it was just so beautiful, and the sky was blue, and the rocks were glistening, and everything was just amazing. And apparently that affected her to the point where she can't get enough hiking in. And she actually bought a cabin up here like 4 years ago. And she had told her husband, because they'd wanted to buy up here for a while, she told her husband, "When we move to Pine Mountain Club, if we do, I'm just going to be a couch potato. I'm just going to sit in the house. I won't have anything to do. I'm just going to be, that's what I'm going to do." And she said that repeatedly to her husband all the time. And she's telling me this on this walk today. And then she, at the Center of the World Festival, she went on this hike, and she realized how wonderful hiking was and how wonderful it was to be active outside. That now she not only took up hiking, she took up golf recently, and she is outside so often that she has done the total opposite of what she had conditioned her husband to expect, which is pretty exciting. So I'm glad to have had a little bit of influence on that. So that's sort of in a nutshell what we're trying to do. We're trying to get people inspired about their local natural resources. And to give you a little more insight on our walk that we did today, we went to the end of a road called Nesthorn, for those of you who are familiar with Pine Mountain Club area. And this little cul-de-sac, and then from there there's a dirt road that spurs off, and we drove a little bit further down and parked on the dirt road. And even as we're driving, I got really, really excited while we were in our car looking out the window. There's all these monarch butterflies flying around. And I don't, raise your hand if you've ever seen a monarch butterfly before. All right, hopefully most of you have. They are decreasing in numbers, sadly, because they don't have their habitat in places that they used to, just like the condor. And but this is an excellent place for monarchs because there was their host plant in full bloom all along both sides of the road and along the trail. Now, raise your hand if you know what the host plant is for the monarch butterfly. All right. If I only see a few hands raised, so those who are raising their hands, if you could whisper to your neighbor on the right the answer, and then whisper to your neighbor on the left the answer, and make sure, hopefully this can get around. Okay, the plant starts with an M, and it has a white sort of sap inside. I'm giving you some hints here. It's a funky-looking plant, and it not only attracts monarch butterflies, it attracts a whole host of other things. Okay, on the count of 3... This is a test right now to see if you even know what you were talking about. On the count of 3, I want you to shout out what this plant is. 1, 2, 3. Milkweed. I am so impressed. That was awesome. Good job. Good job. Give yourself a round of applause. All right. You are now botanists. All right. So this milkweed was blooming all over. It happened to be narrow-leafed milkweed. There are many different species of milkweed. And not only were the monarch butterflies stopping there, and probably had hatched out of their little chrysalis from those plants, there were lots of other interesting things. So one of the things I like to do, the journey is just as important as the destination on our hike. So when we got out of our cars, and literally there's a house right next to us. We're not, in the wilds yet exactly, but there's this milkweed plant blooming, and the monarch butterflies just flew away. They go, "Oh, let's walk over to the milkweed plant and look at it real closely and see if we could find anything else interesting on it." And immediately we found these black and red bugs. And I asked Diane, do you know what these are? And she goes, no, I don't know. And it was real interesting. And we're looking really close at them. And there were two red and black bugs, and they were back to back. It looked like they were glued together. So I imagine you can guess what they were doing. They were preparing for more bugs. And so we were looking at them, and I said, so what do you think these are? And she goes, I don't know. I said, how many legs do they have? And everybody counted, and they had 6 legs. And I said, look at their back. And we looked at the back of the bug, and it was real flat, almost shield-like. And there was red with black spots. And then there was this triangle shape up where the head meets the rest of the back. And it was too hard to see, but if we were to look underneath the face of this little bug, we would have seen a needle coming out, a needle-like mouth. And when you put all these characteristics together, it makes what we call a true bug. So if you wanted to be accurate, you'd actually have to call it a bug. But not all bugs are bugs, if that makes sense. I don't know. So this was a real true bug. and there were 2 of them, and they were mating, and it was really cool to see. Raise your hand if you've ever seen, let's see, if you've been to a creek before, a flowing creek, and you've seen these spider-like insects walking on top of the water. Raise your hand if you've ever seen that before. What are those called? Water striders, or water skeeters, or water skippers, or they have all sorts of regional names. So those are true bugs too. So if you were to look closely at them, they have the same flat back with the triangle, and they have the needle-like mouth, and they have 6 legs. Raise your hand if you've ever seen deep in the pool this giant roach-like bug that was real intimidating. Raise your hand if you've seen one of those. Not a crawdad. They don't have any pinchers or anything. They're about this big when they're full grown. Sometimes they have eggs all over their back, and the males do. Those are a type of water bug. They're actually called giant water bugs. That's the official name. But a lot of people like to call them toe biters. They don't actually bite toes, but if you were ever to catch one, if you were brave enough to catch one, they also have that needle-like mouth part that will raise out, and they can stab things with it. And one time I was out in a creek back in Silverado Canyon where we live, and I was with my daughter, Sydney, who's in the audience there. Raise your hand, Sydney. Yay, Sydney. All right. And we're looking in this pool of water, and then we're pulling up rocks just to see what's underneath. I always encourage kids to pull up rocks, and as long as they do it gently and they don't harm whatever might be underneath. And so we pull up a rock, and there's one of those giant water bugs, a.k.a. toe biters. Oh, by the way, they have praying mantis-like arms with barbs on them. All right? That's another interesting feature. So we lift this rock carefully, and we see a pale, lifeless frog. And then we see a toe biter, a huge one, clutching the frog with its needle-like mouth. Imagine this is the mouth, all right? And it stabbed the frog, and it's sucking everything out of the frog. Isn't that great? So my daughter got to see that, and she's like, whoa, it was pretty cool. So that was really exciting. And I had never seen that before. That was a first for me. And they do that regularly. It was a little tree frog. And subsequently, I mean, it's one thing to see like really crazy, twisted stuff with your own family because, you're all comfortable with each other. But, now I've been on tours where, a bunch of families with little kids, and this other little girl goes, Mommy, what's that going on over there in the water? It's swimming away. And we all look, and it's another one of those toe biters swimming, like trying to take away its frog that is floating lifeless like like a ghost. I mean, it was pretty gross. And this little blonde-haired girl who looks like all she spends her time with flowers and pretty things, she got to see it. So it was pretty nice. It was fun to explain that to her, and she wasn't actually bothered by it. So, but we're into the nitty-gritty of nature, and as we continued on. Walking down the trail in Upper San Emilio Canyon, just down the road there, because we were so already excited about very small things hidden on little leaves, on the side of the trail, we started noticing on another shrub, we noticed all these berry-like growths all over it. But they weren't berries. They had no seeds inside. You couldn't eat them. They were actually real firm, and they were dark and dried out. And they were growing all over this prickly shrub. It had prickly leaves. And if you looked real closely on the shrub, you could also see these other things growing on it that looked like little fruit with caps on them. And I don't know if you I know Dee was talking about those 5 types of things that the first one was really good, that they found, and then the second one, what am I talking about here? Acorns, that's right. So this shrub, this prickly shrub, had these little baby acorns on it, which we know were the real fruit for this shrub, but then there were these berry-like growths all over it, almost like tumors or something. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? It starts with a G. It wasn't mistletoe, and these growths, they were started by, in this particular case, by a wasp, a very tiny little wasp that doesn't harm people, and the female, she flies over to this prickly shrub and lays her egg in the branch, and or eggs, and then when the larvae hatch out, they secrete a chemical that causes the branch to swell, and then these wasps, they basically, with their own sweat, they basically created a food supply now, so they can eat their way through this growth, which is really weird. And then it has a wall around this growth, so they could hide inside, and no predators know where they are, so they can live their first part of their life, and then they grow wings, and then they burrow their way out and fly away. So this thing starts with a G. I heard somebody say, okay, whisper to your neighbors now, just like we did before. I can hear. Okay, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Gall. Very good. These are galls. And there's all sorts of galls all over every plant out here. Some are induced by wasps. Some are induced by mites. Some are induced by fungus. And I realized after today's hike that any future hike in that area, I'm going to call it the gall hike. Because we found those little galls on what was the scrub oak, and then we continued on, and we were in this very let's dissect everything and look inside the little crevices and all that, and then we noticed there was another type of gall. We found one on the back side of a leaf, and it looked almost like what did it look like? Yeah, it looked like cups. It looked like somebody had glued little teacups on the underside of the leaves. So that was another type of gall. And then we're looking around again, and then we see these weird fuzzy growths. It looks like somebody glued pom-poms to some of the branches of some of the plants. And these were on different oaks, but then it went beyond the oaks. We came across a Great Basin sagebrush plant. And raise your hand if you've smelled the Great Basin sagebrush before. Artemisia tridentata. It's growing even alongside the road. So if you see a real pale shrub that's about chest high, go over and give it a hug, because we need more scrub huggers. And I love the trees too, but the shrub plants, they get a bad rap. So the sagebrush, my pal, this particular sagebrush, we got down close, and it looked like somebody had glued cotton balls that you buy from Target all over the branches. And it was very strange. And that was another type of gall. It was just a growth coming out. And there's so many different kinds of galls on all the different plants that there's a field guide to galls. It's called Galls of California. And I'm not joking. It's a really great book, and it's sort of overwhelming. But it's this whole fantastic world of galls. Like, you can spend the rest of your life just observing galls on plants and be satisfied. You can spend more than one life doing this. It's amazing, because every gall is different. They're different colors. We found one that was striped. It looked like it was a little tiny gall, but it looked like it was striped. And they could be pink and red and purple and orange, and they could be dense and heavy when they're fresh, and then they can be sort of pithy and like balsa wood when they're dry and they fall to the ground and crack open. It looks like some dried brain fell on the ground. I mean, it's just amazing. All the different, it's crazy stuff. And it's also amazing to me that it's one thing that all these animals are adapted for all the different branches and everything, and they form their own galls, and that all these different parasitic organisms have this whole life that we never see unless we look really closely, and then humans have adapted to use all of their environment as well. You got the Chumash and all these other tribes, the Yokut, and on and on. They're using everything as well. And when it came to the galls, I don't know how somebody figured this out, but if you take a nice, fresh, dense gall and mash it into a pulp and mix it with distilled water and iron, you get a chemical reaction, and it makes ink, writing ink. And so if you were to go back in time to old documents from the 16 and 1700s, you can actually, those documents are made with gall-based ink. I don't know why you would look at some weird ball growing on a tree and go, that's where I'm getting my ink now, I got to figure out how to do this. Okay, orange juice doesn't work when I mix it with that, but how about, and they figured out distilled water and iron, it was pretty amazing. So that's another thing that I'm really into when we do our tours is foraging and learning, getting back to how not only is this area that we're surrounded by beautiful, and not only is it important for all the other animals, but if you pay attention to the tribal history of this area, this beautiful, ecologically rich place directly sustained people for over 10,000 years. And we've separated ourselves from that. And so I think it's really exciting to get back to that because, when you're building a new road or you got to dam up another creek to make a reservoir or put some cell towers up here or build another tract home development or find a place to store all your nuclear waste or whatever, whatever it is, and there's a bunch of sagebrushes and maybe some canyon live oaks or valley oaks or whatever in that area. If they're only good for other things that you can't really relate to because they're furry and scaly and they don't speak English, we can afford to lose one more sagebrush and oak. But, if it's as important as the acorns are as important to you as they were to Dee's family, and the sagebrush is one of the primary plants you can use to mask your scent if you're going on the hunt, or to mask your the scent of your acorn baskets so grizzly bear doesn't come and steal all your acorns. All of a sudden, those plants have a bit more value. They're not worthless. They're not worth you don't want to just chop them down and throw them in your fire. So to build up that connection that you could actually to this day sustain yourself on the plants that surround us here is pretty incredible to me. I'm still amazed. I mean, free food. Like in this economy, I need free food. I'm a poor naturalist, so so that's an important thing that we like to get across and help people understand how valuable these places are, just not from an intrinsic point of view. But go ahead, clap for that, yay! Food is important. Native food. So, how much time do I have left? Am I out? All right, I'm out. Well, I want to thank you for your time today. I hope to see at least some of you on the walk, even if you've done it a million times, which I guess some of you have. It would be a pleasure to walk with you, and maybe we could all observe some new things together. So have a wonderful rest of your evening. And I'm with Naturalist for You, by the way, so look us up. We do tours all over the place. Thank you.
Thanks, Joel. So don't forget, 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. And do look at what we say about Joel in the program as well.